Twitter CEO Elon Musk just gave Dave Rubin a behind-the-scenes look at Twitter headquarters in San Francisco. Lucky guy. And Dave, you join us now this morning. What did you learn during your trip? I would imagine it's pretty fascinating. With so many layoffs and they're selling off everything, was it kind of like a warehouse?
Yeah, it was. It was rather extraordinary, actually. I was there for 2 days, and both times I met with Elon after midnight. So this guy is quite literally burning the midnight oil. I mean, he is working all day long, tons of engineers there all night trying to fix the massive, massive problems. But to your original point, the place itself kind of feels like a ghost town. I mean, when Elon got there, he took the workforce was about 7,500 people. I think they have about 3,500 now. So he fired half the people. I think that's just the beginning of what he's going to do there. But what he kept describing to me that I thought was most interesting was that he described the whole system as a fractal Rube Goldberg machine or a Jenga set. And everyone watching this knows what Jenga is. You build that tower with little wood blocks, and if you pull anything out, you might knock down the entire thing. That's what they're struggling with right now, that this code is so layered. There is such confusion in there, either through bad actors or just some bad programming or truly malicious things or things that were hidden by the previous regime over at Twitter led by Jack Dorsey, that he's trying to fix all of this. But, they fix one thing and then something else screws up. And more than anything else, what I learned is that this guy is really, really trying. I mean, he kept talking about free speech. There was no talk of we want to censor people or anything else. He wants a good product. He'd like to make it profitable, but I think first he wants to fix it.
Did he talk about shadow banning, Dave?
Yeah, there is way more shadow banning going on than we thought. One of the things that we learned from the Twitter files is that there were ways that they could outwardly label your account so that, internally they could see if you were labeled as misinformation, this, that, or the other thing. But what they're finding out now, and they found it out first on my account because they did a deep dive into my account, that layered within the code, there were several other ways that you could be labeled that they did not even know about until last week. So now they're trying to figure out how many people were hit with this. And if anything, I learned that it seemed like the entire system was built to shadow ban. So when Jack Dorsey, who was the former CEO, testified that they don't shadow ban, I mean, I guess technically he's just, the word shadow ban is a little amorphous. You can call it whatever you want. There was a system in place to make sure certain ideas would not be heard.
Fascinating stuff. But I want to change topics completely here, Dave, because I know you're very hot on this one. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo issued an alarming warning about China's threat to U.S. national security. Listen to this and I'll get your comment.
We need to find out if the Chinese Communist Party actually may have had access at the University of Pennsylvania, where President Biden clearly had documents. It would have been a pretty open space. And Maria, you and I have talked about this for years. The Chinese Communist Party is inside every major American university today with research dollars and with their students. They're at the University of Pennsylvania, too. And we now know that this Chinese money, these Chinese officials met classified documents in that space. They were in the same place. We need to know if there's any risk they might have gotten a hold of them.
Do you agree with that assessment, David?
Well, of course. I actually had Secretary Pompeo on my show last week, and he reiterated that point. And what he's really talking about is something that we all know here. China has its fingers in almost every part of American society right now. Let's not forget, according to Kevin McCarthy, the House Majority Leader, Eric Swalwell had a relationship with a Chinese spy, which I tend to believe since the media refuses to debunk it. So if they're in it with our congressmen and they're in it at our educational institutions and God knows what else, we have a real issue here that we better figure out fast. This country seems to be, I would say, at a federal level, veering out of control. There's good things happening at the state level, but we really need to figure out what's going on at the top right now.
And as soon as possible. Dave Rubin, great stuff, Dave. Fascinating. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.